nailed it.
Just like yesterday, and I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get through the day.
You want me to cut it out, Smith?
You like them?
Welcome back to Hollywood North Radio, where the celebrities come to play. Man, see, we had to segue into that. We are here live with Tyler Hatch. He is a digital forensics investigator, and we're going to find out what all that is. Tyler, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Sleeps, man. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's a good
Super
show.
excited to disappoint your loyal listeners.
No, it's totally fine. I do it every week. You're good. Don't worry.
Prime.
Yeah, trust me. You're good.
So this is the first time me and Tyler have actually met in person.
Yes.
We met on, was it LinkedIn?
Please don't. No, we're live.
I think it started on LinkedIn.
I think it was LinkedIn, right? Yeah. I get a lot of messages and just inquiries and stuff like that. Shut up. You know what?
I hate when you guys fight.
I was like, yo, come on, it was there. You know, he's a digital guy.
Well, he knows how to hack into things, okay? So we're going to be getting into that, okay?
That's what I like.
He's like, Sleepy, well, I found out one of the sites you really like.
Oh, God. Anyways, so I met Tyler online. I've met a lot of people online over the years, but you were such an inspiring story. You were so interesting to me in the sense of just where you've gone to what you're doing now to where you started. And so you started in law.
I did, yeah.
You were a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you practice?
Civil litigation.
Civil litigation.
You're a good guy. I like that.
Yeah. I represented businesses fighting with each other over money and deals gone bad.
Yeah.
So I'm not really a good guy, man.
Well,
I'm joking. I'm joking.
I had my bad moments.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Do you find that tough though? When like you ever been in a situation where you're like, dude, you're wrong, but
Oh
man.
You nailed it. That was my biggest challenge in law, was I had to represent people that I didn't agree with their position. I found it really hard, yeah.
Wow.
Some people can just check out, I guess, and that's the challenge of practicing law. Is when I didn't believe in the case, I found it really hard to argue it to the best of my ability. So yeah,
Did you lose that one?
I lost a lot of trials, and I won a lot
No,
too.
I'm talking about that one. No, I'm just joking.
that one.
I'm playing. I'm just joking with you. No, but that's very
professional
interesting.
liability insurance.
That's very interesting because it's funny because no matter what your job title is, there's a real person that's behind or in front of that title.
Yeah. So the problem with being a trial lawyer is a lot of people are results based. They assess their performance and their professional worth on their record. And
right.
When as a young man, I didn't really have the ability to say I did the best I could. At a certain point, you turn it over to a judge like Wally Opal, and they make the decision. It's out of your hands, so you lose control, and you just have to convince yourself that you did the best job. And when I lost or I won, it was hard on me. Ironically, both. When I won, I'm like, I just had an easy case, or judge was in a good mood that day, or something like that. I didn't give myself enough credit, and then when I lost, I would just tell myself I was the worst person ever. So it was difficult.
And so when you and I had connected on the internet, you would ask me, like, I would love to have you on my podcast.
Wow.
So you and I did your podcast, and, obviously before I went on your podcast, I did some, searching of you and your company, and I wanted to really go in and us have a good conversation where I knew a lot of your background. And so when I Googled you, a lot of information came up in regards to some of the struggles that you've been through in your life, and the story. Your story is just so crazy, inspiring, and I want to touch on that a little bit. So you were a trial lawyer, you were practicing law, and you were struggling a lot in that sense, right? And
correct.
Can you kind of take us through? I want to start with the beginning. We're going to go through what you're working on now, but I think this is important to kind of lean on towards the end of this. Your story.
So when I was practicing law, I found it. I was stressed out. I went all in, and I just got into the hamster wheel of practicing law, and I started to lose my healthy habits like running and working out and eating well, and I started dealing with the stress by eating too much, drinking too much, and towards the end, I was just sort of feeling really, really burned out and stressed. And the end of my career came in about the middle of 2010, and I just basically burned out, and I was subsequently diagnosed with having a bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
And any mental illness that goes untreated is going to cause problems, especially when it's in a high pressure job. So I basically spent the next 4 years trying to get a handle on my mental health. And I spent a lot of days staring blankly at a wall for hours on end and not knowing what to do. And it was just, I was lost. I was really lost for a long period of time. And somewhere in that time period, I started to, I continued to drink and eat poorly, and I tried to keep my physical health up, but it didn't go as planned. And eventually, I've always been interested, I've always had a thing about playing blackjack, and I've always felt that was a good pastime. But at a certain point, it started to kind of take over and become a bigger part of my life in a healthy way. And at a certain point, again, crossed from habit into a bit of a compulsion. I became, I started being put on a drug that helped cause a gambling addiction in a full-blown sense, because it produces compulsive behaviors.
Oh, wow.
And I really went down this really destructive path of a gambling addiction. In the height of abusing alcohol pretty heavily,
which was was super fascinating to me. And I've had people in my life struggle from mental illness and also addiction issues, but to meet somebody that actually was addicted to gambling online was so new to me, because I mean, that's so easy to do that. You sit at home, you gamble or whatever, but I never actually really realized that could be a problem for people.
And it is a fairly small proportion of gamblers. I think it's somewhere around 3 to 5% in BC, which doesn't, but those are really problem gamblers. So I went from freaking out if I lost $100 to literally like 40 grand a month until I went broke. And I was, the problem was that I was doing it because it's online. I was up in the middle of the night, 3 in the morning, where my wife was asleep, and she didn't know what I was doing. And I was, feeding this habit, and I was winning, I was losing. I was telling myself that I was good at this game, even though I was losing money hand over fist. And eventually, it just, it really escalated. Is the point that I'm trying to make. And there must have been some knowledge on the part of BCLC. I'm not convinced that they didn't know that I went from playing a few $100s a month to all of a sudden this crazy
amount,
habit. And the thing is, when I look back, because it was online, I have literally a spreadsheet of all my transactions. Man. And it's not like I didn't win. It's this spreadsheet of insanity. I would be up like 20-30 grand in an hour, and then in 45 minutes I would be 5 grand in the hole, and in the next hour I'd be putting more money in. It was just a spiral insanity fueled experience. It wasn't about, people think gambling, you sit down and you logically and consciously make the choice to win money, and then when you lose you cry that you have a problem and you want to sue somebody. It's not really what it was. I mean, it was way out of control for me. So
and so then you got to a point where you were like, you take us through take us through the moments of like around November of 2016, I finally reached the end of my rope, and somewhere along the line I thought, okay, first of all, I had cashed in my disability policy because I was ill, and I was receiving some through a private policy that I had. If I wasn't able to practice law, I was receiving some benefits, and part of my solution to my debt from the gambling was to approach the insurance company and negotiate a lump sum settlement of my debt, and the idea was to pay off my debt and move on. Unfortunately, when they gave me a check for like 600 grand, I started gambling very badly. It was just a sea of, it was just this perfect storm of disaster. And so I was about halfway through my funds, and I realized I had a problem and I was out of control, but I didn't know what to do. So my thought was, well, let's try to win all my money back. And if that doesn't work out, I'll just kill myself. This was literally my thinking.
Wow.
So along comes November 2016. I'm out of money. I'm about 50 grand now in debt. I now have to tell my wife why I have no money, and that was a difficult thing to do. And I'm selling cars for a living, and I'm not very good at selling cars. And I was earning like $300 a month. Like, it was just, I lost hope. I completely lost hope that my life would ever get better, and I was riddled with guilt for having destroyed my life.
Right.
So eventually it just took me down the path where I did try to kill myself. And so in August of 2017, there was a fateful morning where I did go through with a very serious plan that fortunately didn't work.
Yeah.
And
Thank God.
thank God every day that I'm still here. Yeah. And out of that low moment, I think this is probably what you mean when you find my story inspiring. Out of that low moment, I surrendered myself to a rehab facility who helped me get back on track and fix a problem that I couldn't fix myself. And I spent 6 weeks in Powell River at Sunshine Coast Health Center, and they really turned me around. And I had lost all hope. I had no value in myself. On that moment where I tried to kill myself, I literally thought, I'm useless to everyone around me, including my wife, and maybe if I'm not around anymore, at least she'll get, my life insurance policy will pay her some money. In that moment, I had put my value on that life insurance. That's all I thought I was worth.
Right.
And that's just not a great place to be. But they built me up, and they started to realize that, make me realize that I did have something valuable to contribute to the world and society and to myself, and that I owed it to myself to live a meaningful life and a good life. So in the last 2 years, I've kind of got back on track.
You've beyond gotten back on track. I mean, and that's what we need to talk about now is with your forensic stuff. And
I have a question about that, because when you said something that kind of it evoked an emotion in me where I was just very curious. Where you said you put a price on your life, which and there's no number. I'm just curious what that number was.
$750,000 in life insurance policy.
Right. So I mean, and you're so right. Doesn't matter what that number is. You can't put a price on someone's life.
No, and I didn't consider, that my wife loves me.
Yeah.
And despite my mistakes, she still loved me, and she's still with me, and all that.
what an amazing woman.
Yeah.
by the
Honestly,
way.
Pam, if you're listening, you are an amazing woman.
What's her name?
We love you,
Pam?
Pam.
Yeah, Pam.
We had to learn that from our friend Pam at the Kidney Foundation too.
Yeah, an amazing woman. Like, she just literally went into problem-solving mode and said, I love you, this is what we're going to do. And yeah, she was upset and mad and couldn't understand it, neither could I, but we've worked through it, and to be still together is amazing. I always tell people this, it's not just that we're still together. Some people stay together because it's difficult to break up. We've fought like crazy to stay together, and we're happy, and I've actually regained her trust. We're doing well, we're closer, having been through this thing that we fought through. We're closer and more in love than we ever have been, and it's such an amazing feeling to have somebody.
And that's so amazing. But my brain, because I'm slow, like I find things funny in a lot of manners. When you said, that you guys were going through it, I'm trying not to. So my question, I'm like, I mean, I don't know how I would have just crumbled as soon as I would have heard, like, who are you? I don't even know you. I don't even know who you are, because that's one of the toughest things to ever, that's resonating in her head, and to be able to fight forward to now where you guys are at again is amazing, because trust is one of and what you went through is absolutely amazing, and what an amazing person that she is. Because I don't think a lot of people would be able to do that.
No.
Thank you, Pam.
Yeah, Pam, almost nobody would be with me after all this, and I'm looking forward to growing old with you, babe. I love you.
But you know what, Tyler? You are so open, and you've taken accountability, you've acknowledged your mistakes, and that is like, that's
huge.
how you can rebuild relationships with people, is that just standing on your own 2 feet. And you, I'm so proud and inspired by you, and it's just to see you now, and I just met you, and I'm just like, your story for me is just a daily thing where I'm like, he's come so far and changed everything around for himself. And and it's important for a lot of people out there to hear this story, because there's a lot of people out there that probably do have these problems, and they feel like they want to kill themselves, or that they have no way out, and look at you do have your way out.
100%.
You can come back from it, and that's why I talk about it. And some people, believe it or not, think that I just do this for attention or glory. I don't. I look back to my
Whatever, buddy.
Yeah.
Who cares what the haters?
Paper man.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, seriously, I got that as recently as Thursday.
Really?
Yeah. But the reason why I think back to my dark time, and I think if I had known that other people would have experienced this, maybe I wouldn't have let it go so far. Maybe I would have said, I'm not to blame for all this. Other people go through it, and maybe I should reach out for help. And so that's why I do it. And it's also important to have the humility to sit back and go, I didn't have all the answers, and people struggle in all walks of life with all kinds of problems, and it's okay to say, I don't know how to fix this. I need help. People hire personal trainers all the time. People hire, all sorts of things
Good
in life
point.
when
Yeah.
they don't know how to improve their health or get physically better. But there's a shame attached to mental health and addiction that prevents people from coming forward and getting help. And I'm just trying to break down that barrier a little bit, do my part to break down that barrier to open up the door for people to get
I
help.
feel like the words mental health too, when you put mental in there, it puts this thing on it where it's like that person's mental, right?
Yeah.
Well,
It's kind of harsh, right?
But there's so many other things that words
what
that
about
were
mind?
put together.
Mind
Like-
health,
like
or
brain health?
I just feel like as a whole society probably has that, like, mental.
Well,
It's mental.
Well, you have to
Something's
remember,
mental.
people are mentally ill, mentally insane, or mentally that word has a stigma for being bad.
Yeah, I just feel like maybe we should change that
Like
vocab
Black
a little
Friday.
bit, and
Today, it ends today on this show.
Yeah.
No
Yeah,
more
okay.
mental health shame.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you did your rehab, you came
Yeah.
out, you're rehabilitated. Where did you start your company that you're doing now, and where was the interest in doing the investigation stuff and the forensic stuff?
Right. So during rehab, when I started to believe in myself again, I actually wanted to go back into law. So I came out of rehab and I applied back to the Law Society. And because of my history, they were taking a hell of a long time to process my application. And I needed a job. So in January, I started looking for work, and I found an opportunity with a digital forensics firm in Vancouver. And I applied and I got the job, and they said most of their clients were lawyers, and I just thought it would be interesting, and sure enough, it really was interesting. And I got the job and I started working there, and it was going really well, and I dove in. I found it so fascinating. I immediately said, I'm not doing the law thing. This is going to be what I'm going to do. The problem was doing it the way I like to treat people and value clients. I wasn't able to do it in this particular business.
Right.
So I couldn't work for this person anymore. So I'm like, I'm going to just start my own company, which was irresponsibly foolish because I had no money. I obviously have damaged credit. So I literally just decided, this is what I want to do. I'm going to start this company and I'm going to make it work. And I was just driven by passion and some kind of crazy belief in myself. I don't know why. This time last year, so in July 2018, I started my own business. Yeah, man, and I just
Sorry.
I don't apologize for that.
He's like, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, this time last year, I'm not terribly ashamed, I guess, to say I was doing skip the dishes and working a grocery store job at, stocking shelves in the graveyard. I'm building my business during the day because that's
You
what I
shouldn't
had to
be
do.
ashamed to say that.
You are who you are right now because of that. Sometimes
You gotta fall back.
they
and
always
do what
say
you gotta
rock
do
bottom,
to
or
raise up.
or you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
they hit you a point where you kind of like, well, the only way is up. Do you believe everything happens for a reason? Because I
do.
believe that if you weren't doing the skip the dishes thing, and it wouldn't have motivated you and pushed you to make sure that you made this company work.
If you
100%.
hadn't gone through one of the most terrible times of your life, you wouldn't be where you are today.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
As
true.
shitty as things can be,
Yeah.
they can be total blessings in our lives,
Yeah.
right?
I remember there was a time about this time last year where I was trying to get business from a lawyer that is now my friend and Chris Chernov's good employment lawyer, Kane Shen and Weiler. And I remember I walked in to get an order from like Mucho Burrito, and I'm staring at my app and I'm dead tired, and I'm just like, pick up my food, go deliver it for $1 tip, and let's be on our way. And I look
Oh my
up,
God, I'm tipping
and
my
here's
Uber
Chris
Eats
and his
like $10
fiance,
today.
and I dropped my delivery bag and I kicked it under the table. I'm like, hey, Chris, what's up? I just pretended like I was there, like he was after a workout. I'm like, yeah, just hanging out, grabbing a taco, whatever. But he didn't know I was working. And since, I've told him the story and he's like, dude, you should have just told me. I admire it. That's awesome.
Wow.
So, but yeah, I was like, no, if he
Nice.
ever finds out that I'm skipping the dishes and trying to be like his forensic guy, he's gonna think I'm a total loser.
No, he's not.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what you think in the moment. But yeah, no, I'm proud of the way I built the business, and it makes you thankful for what you have and the small success that we've gained over the past year, and where it's going is really exciting. So,
And thank you, Pam, for being such a good support and a big support for him.
man,
Yeah.
Because
no
without
idea.
that,
Yeah.
trust me,
Yeah.
Pam,
Good shit.
Pam.
So what kind of clients do you have? What exactly do you do for people that
yes.
have no idea about what you do? What do you do?
So forensics, first of all, is we hear about forensic accounting and crime scene forensics. It's gathering evidence for use in court, and we do it in the digital realm. So I look at cell phones and computers and social media and metadata and all these kind of things, and we gather facts. We gather facts and we present the evidence in court. So traditionally, as a lawyer, if I wanted to prove something in court, I would talk to my clients, I would talk to witnesses, I would take statements, I would gather documents. Well, now we can look at a cell phone. Look at, they're everywhere. Imagine how much you can learn about somebody and what they've been doing if you look in their cell phone.
You're gonna be
You're looking nervous.
You're gonna
man,
be so
no, I'm good.
successful. You're gonna have
Hey,
so much
I just
business.
want-
You're not even gonna know
I
what
just
to
want to
do.
know. I just want to know.
Yeah.
I got this homie, right? And
Yeah.
no, I'm just playing.
Homie. Yeah, it's totally not you, is it?
I just need you to look into something for me. We go for a burger and a beer. So, oh, you don't drink? We go to I don't know. Let's go to Joe
burger?
Forte's. Okay, we go to Forte's then, bro. Kobe Steakhouse,
Yeah.
whatever you
Oh,
want.
Now you're talking. So that's what it is. We gather evidence and we produce our findings for lawyers in court. For the most part, that's about half or 75% of what the work that we do. It's the low-hanging fruit for me. I've got good relationships in the legal community because I used to be a courtroom lawyer, so
Right.
I know how to present evidence and I know what sort of checks and balances you have to put before you reach a conclusion. You have to make sure that what you find actually means the conclusion that you think it does. You know,
Have you ever found something on somebody where you're like, no, he needs Jesus and we need to get him
Oh.
arrested?
No.
Forget the case. Forget what we're looking at him for. But, yo, my dude, like somebody needs to send a forensic email to somebody on some kind of tip.
yeah. Well, imagine, right? I mean, imagine the things that we see, even though we're not looking for it, when you start looking at somebody's personal device. I mean, almost
Yeah.
everybody has, a picture of their privates.
Not
under their
me.
feet.
No.
Oh,
No.
they
That's
come-
a white
they
guy
come up-
thing. I'm
Yeah.
joking.
Oh, yeah,
I
right.
don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Don't make it about
right.
color,
I'm
man.
just saying, social media has shown us all, if you Google it.
Yeah.
So do you don't deal with
97%
like
number.
people that try to scam you online and stuff like that?
Oh,
too?
most definitely we do. Yeah, it's actually a really big problem. So cybercrime is sort of the umbrella that I would put that under. And we all know the data breaches like Capital One and things, information being leaked.
Yep.
But there's also ransomware attacks where businesses are attacked repeatedly and their network is encrypted and they're demanded to pay money. We respond to that and we get the business up and running. We lay the factual groundwork for a lawyer to give a legal opinion on what the business's next step is. Do you have to report the incident to your clients? Is there somebody to sue as a result of this? There's a lot of business email scams going on right now where people are hacking into your emails and then they're getting in, and law firms have been significantly affected by this. They're redirecting payment of settlement funds,
Okay.
large amounts.
Oh, wow.
Accounts payable. I mean, we're talking like clothing manufacturers recently where it was like 68,000 US. There was a law firm in Vancouver that's, I think it was $1 or $2 million of settlement funds that were redirected. And so these people get in the email conversation and the money is paid. So it's interesting because somebody gets hacked, right?
Yeah.
And then the other people get the new instructions from the criminal who
Hacker,
looks
yeah.
like the email is coming from a legitimate source. And they don't do anything. They don't pick up the phone and say, hey, it's kind of weird. Are you sure you want me to pay that here now? And to Samuel L. Jackson, it's literally happened to a law firm. Samuel L. Jackson. Doesn't seem weird at all, right? And so they paid the money. And
Wow.
That's
so who's to blame there? Is it the company that got hacked, or is it the person who didn't do enough to confirm the new directions? So we have to come in and say this is exactly the facts that we're dealing with. because this isn't user level stuff. We're looking at the logs of events that are kind of behind the scenes. And so, yeah, there's a lot of...
I blasted somebody on LinkedIn yesterday.
Yeah?
So I have over 5,000 people on my LinkedIn. I get a lot of requests about whatever on there. And this guy, obviously I have my law background. I'm not I wasn't born yesterday. I know how to look at an email, a signature, everything, right?
Yeah.
And this guy who was a middle-aged white man, probably in his 50s, his name was David Graham. He contacted me on LinkedIn and he's like, "Hi, Brittany, I've checked out your profile very professionally." He's like, it's so funny we're talking about all this now because this just happened to me the last 3 days.
I got a weird text earlier. I want to say
I need to hear this one. Yeah, yours. And so he's like, "Oh, I have an administrative position for you and all this, and at part-time you can do it at home and all this stuff." And I was like, okay. I'm like, I always approach messages from people okay, well, give me some more information, let me know, blah blah blah. So this guy, I'm like, I just had a funny feeling about it from the beginning. So I Google imaged his picture, and this guy from the States came up. It was totally not the same guy. I actually did my little FBI girl investigation for 20 minutes. Boom, boom, boom. I found the guy's office. I emailed him and sent him, and I'm like, this guy's saying that he's you, but I don't think it's you. And so me and the guy got in a conversation, and I blasted this page, and I was like,
nice.
This guy says that he's so-and-so. He's not. Just a warning to everybody that you know or whatever. But I just had the feeling that it was fishy. I didn't even, yeah.
Was he asking you to send information?
Yeah, I think the next step would have been him trying to. He asked me to send him a resume, and I did. But my resume, it has my name, my email address, and my phone number and address. But you could get that. I didn't give them banking information. I didn't give him my SIN number. I didn't give him my date of birth. So my resume, you could find my resume probably. You could find it. You know what I mean? You could find my address if you wanted, really, right?
I could.
Yeah, you could. I know who to call now, right? But this was I'm like, what are you gonna get? If you looked at my resume, you would see that I would be catching on real quick. I'm
Do you
not
want
gonna
to know
be.
what that scam's about?
Yeah. See?
So people get hired for this job that seems really too good to be true, and the company sends them a check for say 30 grand and says, "Take your $5,000 cut and send us the rest of the money." But the check is bad. It's a bad check. So then the person.
So you're putting it in your bank account personally,
and
so
you're
liable for that.
Yeah, and you take your $5,000 out or whatever, and then the bank tells you a few days later, by the way, that check was no good. You owe us 30 grand.
Yeah.
And the person that you've sent the 25 grand to
would have never gone that far for me.
Yeah, it's really bad. It happens a lot.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. No.
And
that
people actually do that.
Some. It's a numbers game. That kind of scam is a numbers game.
Yeah.
You hope to do it to 1 million people, and maybe 3 will actually do it.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
not Brit.
But I got a text
I Google searched that photo right
Atta girl.
away.
saying,
That's right.
all right, but I deleted it off my phone, so I didn't know if it was something that if I click it, it starts to suck information out.
Yes.
So once I clicked it, because it said we owe you money and here's a credit, and it looked like an e-transfer.
Yeah.
So when you do it, so I'm like, this doesn't seem right. So weird enough, I was like, I gotta call Fido anyway. So instead of paying my bill, I'll just tell them to credit my account. So I didn't open up the rest of it and go and put bank information, none of that stuff. So I talked to the guy. I'm like, hey, you guys sent me a credit. Can I put the credit for an email transfer? Can you guys cancel that and just put that money towards? He's like, we never sent you an email transfer. We don't do that. We will only credit your account. We'll never send you money.
Yeah.
That as a business, that doesn't even make any sense.
See, I would have. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. That's called phishing. Phishing with a
Yeah.
PH.
Wow.
And it happens in email and text messages more and more too.
But I think you've tapped into the perfect opportunity with your business because we're just getting more
there's a
how
lot of
can you even
opportunity
keep up
ahead,
now?
Well, if you have the passion, it's really fun.
Yeah.
I have to say.
Shit.
When you're not being the victim, it's actually quite fascinating.
But
Yeah.
what kind of clients do you have? You get businesses
man.
women trying to find out shit about the husbands, husbands trying to find out things about their wives.
Yeah. So
The spy story?
I know that you don't want to. I know you
You
don't
know
want
the
to.
spy
You
story?
can't really tell your methods,
no, I can't.
right? Okay, well, go ahead. Sure.
We get everything from individuals and right up to businesses and lawyers. So individuals tend to be suspicion of being spied on, and the technology is certainly there that they can be, and that kind of thing can be hidden and massively invasive. Like we're talking, it transmits your Signal conversations, your Telegram conversations, WhatsApp, all these things that we think are
What?
encrypted and safe. Because once it's installed on your phone, it can see everything.
What?
And it
Can you check my
transmits
phone?
location.
Who can see everything?
Them.
Can you check my phone? No,
Guys,
because I have
It tends to be men spying on their wives.
Oh.
What?
Post-breakup.
I emailed that guy back too before I blocked him and reported his page, and I was like, "You idiot!" I'm like, "I know this is a scam." I was like, "I found the guy that's you. Just so you know, I messaged him, and me and that guy have been like." He's like an old he was like heavy in the military in the States, and he's very well known. They took his photo, put it on this thing, and it looked like a recruiter that was trying to recruit me for an administrative part-time job at home, which would have been right up my alley, because if I could do administrative work for a couple hours a night and make $1,000 a month, why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah.
Right?
Right, yeah,
As a
yeah.
contractor, right? It's like money in my pocket. But I knew,
While
you
you're
know.
watching Ellen.
Yeah, it seems like he's just getting
Those of you who know that
Yeah.
Brittany's a massive Ellen fan.
Yeah.
Are you?
I love Ellen, actually.
Well,
I
who
went
doesn't? She can dance. She's funny.
I went to her show last year. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it was like the best moment of my life.
She's got
Anyway,
nice teeth.
yeah.
She's good shit. That's my
Your girlfriend's hot?
Yes.
So what are
Just
your
saying.
biggest tips for people, like, if you're going to talk to the younger generation about, you know, phones and LinkedIn and
Can we
social
start
media?
this sentence with, "It's okay, you listen, you idiots"?
No.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
You don't wanna
Don't
shake
be
it.
ashamed for what we're about to tell you.
I'm all about prevention. So